Today, in unsolicited clarity, I would like to share with you a chart I made, something I made. What we're going to look at is different demonstrations of racism and compare it to the level of toxicity. Just because you see it over here doesn't mean that it is racism. For example, right here you see like the bullhorn. That doesn't mean like, using a bullhorn is racist. It just means that if you deem it to be racist, and it's showing up on this list, then you can kind of categorize it. We're gonna have to do this over multiple segments, I can see right now. So if you want to come along on the ride, come along on the ride. And it's not meant to replace empirical or scientific study. It is meant to be a conversation starter. So what we're looking at is above ground and below ground. At the very bottom, underground, you have systemic racism. When it's built into the laws and the policies of an organization, for example, it has the highest level of toxicity. It means you are not allowed to do things, sometimes not allowed to be here. The things that are underground are not as tangible and to address, so they're usually the deepest embedded. Right above it, you have social. You have people punching down or deciding a group is lesser than, and so they use tricks to try to reinforce that. That's like mid-level toxicity. And then you have blocking right above that. Blocking says you're not really welcome, like averted eye contact, protected body language. I'm not going to shake your hand, like nice to meet you, you're over here, but nice to meet you sort of thing. Those things are really underground. You can't really shout like they were racist to me because they didn't speak to me and they didn't shake my hand. You can, but you're doing a lot of talking to try to explain it. Above ground, you have above ground, you have something very overt like signage. Signage is like setting the space. That means like, setting the tone in this space. Diversity is not allowed for whatever type of diversity you are representing. So above that, you have like a bullhorn. That means it's been vocalized, giving voice. And there's something about giving it voice, which kind of lets people in and around know that we're going to be vocal about our racism. And then that's like mid-level toxicity above ground. And then at the most, you have fatal, which is to bring mental, emotional, or physical death to someone by racism or by racist beliefs. So as you see above ground, they also grow increasingly toxic. And I want to also kind of jump back and say in the foundation, when we talked about systemic, we talk a lot about removing racism from an organization, from a society, but remove the foundation of something and what happens to the building. So I'd like to open the doors to the conversation at this time. This covers ageism, racism, sexism, ableism. So I want to talk about the difference between there's signage that says we don't want your diversity here and people verbalizing. When I was in undergrad, there was this young lady that was telling a story of the time when Bill Cosby was doing this tour, trying to tell black people not to call each other N-word, but she said the word. Y'all, I went to a small little undergrad. There were maybe 8 people in the class. Immediately something visceral, happened in me. It was an activation of fight or flight. This is not a lecture on how to be human, but in your efforts to try to have these really, really tough conversations, know that words matter. Know that just because it isn't tangible, that it isn't just as real, if not more real, more toxic than some of the things that might be more tangible. Look, it's right below fatal. You can kill someone with those words.